Now it's my pleasure to introduce our final speaker for the opening session, Dr. Brian Cahill. Dr. Cahill is a grant manager at ReMO and has been recognized for their contributions to research in mental health. Please welcome Dr. Brian Cahill.
Thanks very much for the nice introduction. So, I think I will give a very general introduction to the cost action, and kind of with particular reference to my own background and kind of how I got involved. Well, I'm an engineer from Ireland, and I first moved to Germany in the late 90s to work in industry at Hewlett Packard, and then I did PhD in Zurich. I did postdoc in Geneva. Well, I did PhD in nanotechnology, then postdoc in chemistry. Then I moved into bioprocess engineering in Germany for about 10 years. And during that time, I became chair of the Marie Curie Alumni Association. And through this kind of side project, working in a voluntary organization, I got involved in a lot of these sort of topics. So since then, I moved to Edinburgh for 1 year to work on the Marie Curie project as a research manager, and then I moved back to Germany to Hanover to TIB, which is the German National Technical Library. I'm also involved in Neuroscience, which is the European Association for the Advancement of Science, and the Silane Foundation, which is involved in training for early career researchers. When I was chair of the Marie Curie Alumni Association, I think along with many of the other researcher organizations, we noticed that there was something happening with early career researchers, with the questions that were coming in. So we started focusing on researcher mental health in about 2017. And at our annual conference in 2018 in Cahill, that we had a number of sessions on researcher mental health, but we also came together and wanted to do more. So we applied for a session at the Neuroscience Open Forum, ESOF, in 2018, which we got. And we had a session at the very end of Friday, just before the ESOF party. And so it was very late in the conference, but we had a full room full of early career researchers, but also people from the European Universities Association, journalists, and so on. That through this, two of our speakers, one speaker was interviewed in Science. He was a counsellor from Trinity College Dublin, from the Student Counselling Service. And another one of our speakers was interviewed by Nature, and she had just published, Kathleen Beck had just published a survey on the prevalence of depression among PhD students in Flanders in Dutch-speaking Belgium. So we noticed that there was a lot of interest in this topic. At around the same time, in the Max Planck Society, there was a very prominent case where a researcher who was an expert in empathy was accused of harassment within her own group. At the time that the chair of the Max Planck PhD Net, Jana Lasser, who's also involved in our network now, published a position paper on power abuse and conflict resolution within research groups. And this, within the same week of this story, right? Because she had been working on this topic for quite a while, and the association in general, and they have been approaching health insurers, even got funding to run courses, to run workshops. They have been really active on this. At the same time, Eurodoc, that Gareth O'Neill was the president of Eurodoc, he's also Irish, just like me, and that Gareth O'Neill and Matthias Schrein had been working on, they published a paper, and Matthias Bjornman, who was a Marie Curie alumnus, and is now the Secretary General of CESAR, which is a university organization, had published kind of a short article in Nature as well. So, and the European University Association had asked Matthias Schrein to speak at their meeting. So I will. Right. I'm not quite sure. So, I think at that stage we started working together. We submitted a session for the Vitae conference. Vitae are is a charity in the UK, is a non-governmental organisation that's focused on research careers. And so this also got a lot of attention. That was all in 2018. So we decided we need to do something very significant. In the Marie Curie Alumni Association, we set up a mentoring program, a peer mentoring program, so we moved away from just raising awareness to actually doing something. And this was led by our vice chair in the ReMO Cost Action, Stephanie Gautier, and also Dara McCashin, who's a young psychologist from Dublin. He's our working group leader, one of our working group leaders. So I think from the organisations involved in the project, many of them are voluntary organisations, our researcher organisations, our Your Access are very important. We have very many of our management committee members are Your Access national coordinators. We have over 40 countries involved. I think of the main cost countries, we don't have Georgia, Estonia and Luxembourg. I think apart from that, I think Czech Republic we're still negotiating with. We have people from the Czech Republic, we don't have a management committee member yet. But we're working on a survey, we're working on national policy briefs, we're setting up communities of practice. So it's very much for setting up dialogue, education, bringing people together, generating evidence, further discussion. So it's about bringing in stakeholders, bringing in all the people who are involved in this area so that we can find solutions and move this topic on. Our conference is on in mid-June. We're currently reviewing all submissions, and that will be finished next week. We will have an ambassador training school. We had one in Grenoble last year. We will have one in Paris this year. That's at the end of May. We're running a survey throughout Europe, and there will be kind of news on disseminating the survey very soon. It's almost ready to go. We run webinars. We had a webinar on the OECD report on precarity with two of the authors. Tomorrow we will have a webinar with Susanna Teuber and Martesa Mahmoudi on bullying, harassment in academic settings. We will have another webinar at the beginning of May on burnout prevention in academia. So thanks for listening. We will talk further throughout the day, and I look forward to all the discussions.